Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video. And in this reading vlog, we're going to be tackling some of the books that have been on my TBR for far too long. This video is kindly sponsored by Serious Readers, who make fantastic reading lights. I'll talk about them a bit more later on in the video. So today I'm going to be reading some books from my long-term physical TBR. So in my 2025 goals video, which I'll leave linked down below and I put up a couple of weeks ago, I said that one thing I really wanted to do in 2025 was read the 19 books that have been on my TBR for the longest. So here on this little table slash extra bookshelf thing that I have mostly this shelf, but also these 3 extra books, are the 19 books that have been on my TBR since before Christmas 2023. And I would like to read them all this year. And today I have a day between freelance jobs, so I thought I would give myself a bit of a head start with my TBR challenge for 2025 and try and read a few of these books. Obviously, none of these are very short. Short books don't tend to stay on my TBR for as long, but some of them are definitely ones I don't think will take me too long. So I figured I would pick a book one at a time from this little table shelf thing and see how far I get through the day. So looking at the books that I have available to me, the books that have been on my TBR for too long, I think I'm going to start off with The Girl on the 88 Bus by Freya Sampson. Partly just because I've been meaning to read this for ages, and also because I don't think this will take me too long and I kind of know I will like it. I really like Freya Sampson's writing. I actually worked on her first novel, The Last Library, back when I worked at the publisher Zaffa, part of Bonnier Books UK, and I had such a good time working on The Last Library. It was so delightful. Genuinely one of my nicest memories of working in publishing was the pitch meeting we did for The Last Library. Me and my boss put together a fake library notice board. It was very fun. Anyway, I know I love her writing, and I've heard amazing things about The Girl on the 88 Bus. And I went along to the book launch when it came out in, I guess, 2022. It's probably 2022. Yeah, it was 2022. So it's about time I read this, isn't it? I'm sure I will love this. I'm going to get started now and see how far I get today. Well, I'll definitely finish this today, but how many other books I get read today, we will find out together. Anyway, I really need to stand up now. Sitting here on the floor by this shelf is exceptionally uncomfortable. So anyway, right, let's go. Hello again. I'm partway through reading The Girl on the 88 Bus, which I am really loving so far. It's so good. Yeah, I'll talk about that more later, but I wanted to have a quick moment to tell you more about Serious Readers, who are very kindly sponsoring this video, which is, very helpful in terms of letting me have a day to focus on getting down my long-term physical TBR. So Serious Readers make really amazing reading lights like this one. This is my high definition light. I've had it for 2.5 years, and I use it all the time, which, you know, you will see if you ever watch any of my reading vlogs. It's just a really great light. It is flexible and maneuverable and dimmable and everything that a good light should be, and having a direct light on a page really makes it so much brighter. I do notice now if I'm reading like on the train or somewhere without a good light, I definitely read slower than when I'm reading here with a good light. I do have an offer code active with serious readers at the moment, so if you're interested in getting one of these for yourself, I'll leave some links down below, and if you enter Katie, just my name, all in capital letters at checkout, then you can get £150 off a high definition light. All the details will be down in the description. And in the meantime, let me get back to my reading. Hello again. It's now about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've just finished reading The Girl on the 88 Bus, which was such an utter delight. I'm so glad I picked this up today. It was just like exactly the book I needed, and so lovely and so wonderful. Yeah, while I was reading it, I was using a bookmark from Freya's previous book, The Last Library, and there's a quote on it from Claire Pooley that I just kept like looking at as I was reading, which says about The Last Library, it made me laugh, cry and cheer. And I feel like that is a very good quote to sum up Freya Sampson's books. The Girl on the 88 Bus was so like delightful and lovely and so funny in places, but also really moving, really heartfelt, dealt with a lot of like really interesting serious issues, and I just adored it so much. I haven't spoken about what it is about at all, have I? So The Girl on the 88 Bus is about a woman called Libby. She's 29 years old, and her long-term partner have just split up, so she moves to London into her sister's spare room. And one day while she is riding the number 88 bus, she meets an elderly man on the bus called Frank, and Frank is in his 80s. He's in the early stages of dementia, and he has been riding the 88 bus regularly for decades, because 60 years ago he met a girl on the bus, and the conversation they had changed the whole course of his life. They went to go on a date. She gave him her phone number on her ticket, but he lost the ticket, lost the number, and never saw her again. And he's been trying to find her ever since. So Libby says that she will try and help him in his search to track down this woman. And everything kind of goes on from there. And it's so good. It's so good. The story went in like directions I wasn't necessarily expecting, and I just loved it. It's just so delightful. Yeah, what an utter pleasure of a book. So I'm so glad I read that today. I'm so glad I finally read this. It was just such a joy. Just gave me all that same like joyous warmth that The Last Library gave me. So there we go, one book from my year's TBR list read. 18 left to go. So I'm gonna have a look at my shelf, look at the lengths and font size of the other books on there, and see what I want to read this afternoon. Hello again. So I have returned to you indecisively with 3 books. Which of these shall I read? So here we have The Good Liars by Anita Frank. This is historical fiction. I really loved a previous book by Anita Frank, The Lost Ones. Really enjoyed that, and I've had this on my shelf for ages, and I really need to get to it. Then I have another historical book, The Awakenings by Sarah Main. Don't know too much about this. The Good Liars is early 20th century, I think. This is late 19th century. And then I also have a thriller, Good Girls Die Last by Natalie Simmons, which I have been meaning to read for ages. I mean, the whole point of all of these books is I've been meaning to read them for ages. But I also feel would be quite a quick, pacey read. I'm feeling kind of indecisive. I might pick up The Good Liars because it's not that long and the font is quite big. So I think I could probably finish it this afternoon and then maybe pick up one of these other 2 this evening. I'm not sure. We'll see how I go. I did love The Lost Ones by Anita Frank, and also I really enjoyed reading The Girl on the 88 Bus and remembering how much I'd loved The Last Library. And there's something quite nice about like reading a second book by an author whose work you've loved previously. So maybe we'll keep that going as the theme. There are other books on my shelf where I have read a previous book by the author. In fact, I think I'm quite bad for when I acquire a book and I've read the author before and I know I like them, I feel like I get to a book less quickly because I sort of feel like there's no hurry. I know I'm going to like that. I'll read it at some point. But isn't that silly? Because the whole reason I've got that book is because I liked a previous book by the author. So I should read it because I'll also enjoy it. Anyway, right, I think I'm going to start The Good Liars and I will check in again soon. Hello again. It's now 5:45 in the evening, and I've just finished reading The Good Lies by Anita Frank, which was really fascinating, very compelling, very gripping, has elements of sort of gothic and ghost story in it, as well as lots of exploration of the kind of aftermath of the First World War. So this book is set in the early 1920s, and we're chiefly following a family called the Stillwells. So there's a man and his wife, the man's brother and their sort of childhood friend, all living in a house together, very big, grand mansion. All three of the men served in the war, have been impacted in different ways. At the beginning of the novel, a woman called Sarah arrives to join their household. She is there partly as a maid, partly as a servant, and partly as a nurse to help Leonard, who was severely injured during the war. And after Sarah's arrival, somewhat strange things start to happen, and it becomes clear that the family are hiding something, something potentially that happened during the war, and also something that happened just before the war involving the disappearance of a young boy. I kind of don't want to say too much more than that. There are a lot of secrets being kept, and the twists and the turns of the plot are very effective. I found it very compelling. The book is populated with some quite horrible people, like there are some really nasty characters who are very judgmental and prejudiced and manipulative. Victor and Ida, I just could not stand, but that is the point. You're not meant to be able to stand them, and I feel like everything around the characterization was done very well. So this was a really, really interesting novel. Yeah, glad that I finally got to this after it has been on my TBR for too long. So it is now, as I said, about 5:45. So I don't think I'm going to get another novel read in its entirety today. And I don't think I want to start a novel that I'm not going to finish, because I am partway through another book that I was reading before this reading vlog. So I'm not going to start The Awakenings or Good Girls Die Last today. But it did occur to me as I was looking at my 19 books that I want to read before the end of the year, that one of them was this, the Persephone Book of Short Stories, which is a big short story anthology from Persephone Classics. So I thought maybe I'll just read a few short stories from this this evening, because I don't really mind if I read a few stories of this today and then don't read any more stories for another month. That's absolutely fine. And I was thinking actually it might be nice to try and do a couple of these vlogs kind of throughout the year, where I pick, you know, a couple of books from my 19 books that have been on my TBR for too long shelf, and read them in a day. You know, that's quite a fun project for me to have if I have a day between freelance jobs. And actually there are probably quite a lot of books on that shelf that are the kind of length where I could read 2 of them in one day, but most of them are too long, I think, for me to read 3 in one day. So it might be nice to pick up like a few short stories from this anthology every time I do that. We'll see, maybe this will be the only one I do, but there are definitely a lot of books I'm excited for on that shelf, and making reading vlogs of them and sort of tracking my project might be a nice way to encourage me to keep reading those books that have just been sitting on my TBR for too long. Anyway, that was a very long-winded way of me saying I'm going to read a couple of short stories from this and let you know how I get on with them. Hello again. I've just read the first story in this anthology, which was From A to Z by Susan Glaspell from 1909, which was the story of two people sort of falling in love while working on a dictionary together, which I thought was really, really good. I really liked it. Great story, not an author I know at all, but I thought that was very strong. And then the next story in the collection is The Black Cat by Catherine Mansfield, who I've read lots from before and who I really love. It looks like this is a short story in the form of a play, so that's quite fun. I'm looking forward to reading that. So I've just finished the second story in the book, which was, what was it called? The Black Cat by Catherine Mansfield, about a woman leaving her husband. Very short story in the form of sort of like a play. Some of it is dialogue, but some of it is also like monologue. Quite different, but I really liked it. I really like Catherine Mansfield. I think she's a really interesting writer. So I think I'm going to leave it there for the day. But I really enjoyed the two stories I've read from this so far. I will probably just read a story or two from this kind of over the course of the year, I guess. Sometimes I do find if I read a whole mass of short stories in one go, they start to slightly blur, or I end up getting a lot more out of one story than another, whereas if I read them, you know, spaced out, then that doesn't happen so much. So I think I'm going to stop for the day. Really enjoyed my reading today. Two great novels, two great short stories, and lovely to have two books off my TBR of 19 books. So now there's 17 books on that shelf to read in the rest of the year, which feels more doable in many ways. So that's very exciting. That's all for now. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks again to Serious Readers for sponsoring this video. Do you have any books that have been on your TBR for too long? That's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.